Thanks, Danielle. Can everyone hear me okay? First, I apologize for the long bio. Thanks for doing that. And we're talking about a topic that's really important to me, and I think many people in this room, is about building the talent pipeline in the Alberta tech ecosystem. If we want to build a really robust tech ecosystem, it all starts with people, and that starts with talent. And how do we allow and enable people to really make a difference in the world as well as in our ecosystem? And I'm really excited because we have a rock star panel beside me, and I'm excited to introduce them. First, to my left is Minister Nate Glubish. Nate was sworn into the role of Minister of Service Alberta for the Government of Alberta at a ceremony of Government House in Edmonton on April 30th, 2019. And we thank him for his contributions to the government and the role in technology. And Nate's got a really interesting bio pre-government where he was a facilitated investment in Alberta technology companies. He began his career with Foundation Equity, an investment firm with over 8 years as he rose to partner and participated in the negotiation and success of several multi-million-dollar technology business investments. Next to him is Neeraj Gupta, Chief Strategy Officer of Attabotics, who's an expert in many things, including AI, ML, IoT, product management, innovation management, strategy, international business expansion, patent consulting, and legal tech. Before Attabotics, Neeraj has a global career where he continues to be the chairman at India Alumni Chapter for KTH in Sweden and is on the board of KTH Alumni Advisory Board. He's also a governing council member of IIT Alumni Center in Bangalore, India. And next to him is Serene Yu. Serene is the Executive Technical Director at PixelTree as well as the founder of Local Shops. Serene combines her vision of empathy-based leadership with value-focused software development. Her passion leads her team to see the values of a sustainable tech ecosystem in the Calgary tech community. She's also been doing JavaScript since 1998 when it was new and before it was cool. And then lastly, Jasmine Palardy, community and city builder at the Good Future Company. She is a creator of All Stripes, together to share and build with a focus on more collaborative cities and communities. Jasmine has spent a career working with creative and technology communities to build programs and spaces that help accelerate innovation. Jasmine was on the startup team of one of the world's first community crowdsourcing and crowdfunding platforms, which led to her engaging in a research project with the Harvard Business School. Following that, Jasmine identified and coached startups from around the globe and telling their stories from Bay Area investors. Also not on here, but I think very impressive, is Jasmine was one of the founding directors at Beakerhead, an event that I've really enjoyed and that hopefully many of you have enjoyed as well. So, without further ado, let's talk about the topic of automation and the digital jobs of tomorrow. Canada's employment landscape is undergoing a rapid transformation through advanced digital technologies like blockchain, AI, robotics, and meaning that the work of the future will be dramatically different. This fireside chat explores how up to 40% of all jobs are predicted to be eliminated by technology by just 2040, maybe even yours. But the digital economy and metaverse might be the creative engines for millions of new employment opportunities. So there may be some light at the end of the tunnel. Our first question is, from your experience in industry, what are some of the biggest changes and most high impact technologies that you see in Canada's employment landscape? Let's start with you, Neeraj.
Thank you. There have been a lot of automation happening during pandemic and last 3 years, but if you look at Canada and Alberta, Canada and Alberta always have been at a very forefront in technology innovation. And what I have seen in last 3 years is business innovation. Applied is a key. A lot of applied innovation is happening. And that's why you're looking at blockchain, AI, machine learning, because now people are collaborating domain and tech to find out the real problems and trying to solve that. And because of that, a lot of new companies are coming up. So across the domain, be it medtech, supply chain, be it retail, e-com, fintech, those applied commercialized product, the IP which we had created, are becoming the backbone of Canada. and Alberta.
Yeah, go ahead, Minister Glubish.
Sure, thank you. Happy to jump in on this one. And first, let me just give a shout out to everyone who's wearing an I Heart Alberta Tech shirt today. Put up your hand if you got one of those on right now. Yeah, that's awesome. I was wearing mine last night, so I decided it was probably not a good idea to wear it again today. And you'll all thank me for that. So I think, to build on what Neeraj just said, I think the one that's most exciting to me is medtech, medical technology. And I'll give you an example. I'll just tell you a real world story, because I think that when you can make it relatable with something tangible, then it really just starts to open up your eyes to what's possible. When I was a VC, one of the most exciting companies I ever invested in is Calgary-based Circle Cardiovascular Imaging. So they're just down the road here, downtown Calgary. At the time, they had about 10 people. It was an artificial intelligence, machine learning startup focused on building diagnostic imaging tools for cardiologists and radiologists. And at the time, of course, they barely even had a product. They were just starting to train their models, but our firm, Foundation Equity, we invested in their first major venture round. And over the next 10 years, they ended up developing tools that are now being used in over 1,500 hospitals in 45 countries around the world, making every cardiologist and radiologist more efficient by automating part of their workflow, by allowing them to see and help more patients, getting more accurate diagnoses so that they can help get patients the care they need more quickly. So think about, so not only did they turn in from a startup to a massive multiple $100 million valuation company that recently just sold to a private equity firm for about $220 million US dollars. But they now are transforming healthcare. And what part of government needs more transformation than anything else? I believe it's healthcare. The way that we are going to meet the needs of an aging demographic, of the next generation of Albertans and Canadians, is with more technology and innovation, and in some cases automation in healthcare. But automation doesn't mean less jobs. It just means making people more efficient, like the specialists, like cardiologists and radiologists. If we can help them to be 10 times more productive, every Albertan, every Canadian is going to benefit.
Go ahead, Jasmine.
Yeah, I think building on that, when we think about what are the most transformative technologies right now, to go to the question, and I definitely agree, medtech is seeing explosive growth and changing lives. But the backbone of that, of course, is artificial intelligence. And in my mind's eye, I think AI, but more practically, citizen machine learning, applied machine learning, where not everyone needs to be a data scientist, but it has a decent understanding and recognition around what good data is and what good questions are, to me is incredibly transformational. And I think that applied machine learning is really where we're seeing that augmented employee and augmented workforce versus the displacement of employees in a workforce. And I think that opens up a ton of opportunity in multiple industries.
Serene, would you like to chime in?
I guess so. It's kind of weird speaking where everybody's wearing pants. I mean, it's good, but it's just weird. I think the thing that has affected myself and my team has been the accessibility to remote work. I find that it's really made building a company more accessible to small businesses. It's easier to access talent, it's cheaper to access talent, and especially with COVID, it's made it more normal to work remotely. And the technologies that are enabling us to do so effectively are just, you see new technologies every single day for that. And I think that's great because it's going to allow more people to start companies, and that's going to just generate more ideas for our ecosystem.
Great. I'll ask a challenge to the panel of some people, if I'm later in my career and I'm looking at this automation and I do something that's more manual or something that I've been doing for quite some time and I see technology coming in and essentially replacing me, what would you say to those people?
I have a great anecdote from a colleague of mine who recalls coming into a company as a consultant when email was being rolled out, and the number of people staring at him and saying, "Am I out of a job?" And now we all kind of we curse email, right? But it's just, I think it's a reminder that, I think every decade and every new wave of technological advancements has the worry that we're going to displace people. I think that, again, it's about augmenting. It's about using our powers and our human, capacity in really remarkable ways and unleashing more human potential and ensuring that we provide the learning environments and corporate environments and startups that allow for us to do that. But I think that's really the case, is to not necessarily be fearful of it, but to ensure that those who are creating the technologies and those who are rolling out the technologies and those who are adopting them are thinking about all of our roles in co-creation and co-stewardship of that technology, so that we're actually respectful of the human side of this technological era, and also really thinking about how we make life and work and society better as a result of these augmenting technologies. And I think that's when we can actually unlock even more, and that's why I think where we see the accelerating returns already happening.
Yeah, when I spend time with my community, helping people pivot in, at the end of the day, all technology problems are people problems. They allow us to think about more creative solutions or different solutions and have different conversations. At the end of the day, those same soft skills we see over and over again. Next question, and we're just talking about the rapid change in how we work and technology change over time. But how much of the automation that we're experiencing today do you believe is because of this COVID era or pandemic era? And what do you think other leading factors are in the increased rapid change in technology and innovation? Go ahead, Neeraj.
Attabotics is in fulfillment automation, right? And we have been doing it for the last 5 years. And pandemic has changed a lot of things for us in terms of a lot of innovation which we have done in the business, when a lot of us could not go in person, and since we are also manufacturing led, but since we were able to automate a lot of our manufacturing, so even with the 25% capacity at the manufacturing plant, we were able to achieve the same amount of growth. And there was an investor who asked us that, why are you not outsourcing all your manufacturing to Asian countries? And we said that we have automated our process in such a way that we don't need to, and even if we'll get that delta, it will not be more than 5%. So it has helped us retain a lot of employees. In Canada, actually, we are a very Calgary company, and we are very proud of that. So I guess, it was a need. We are building for future. When I was talking to Minister, he said that, we are building for the future. So there will be hiccups, there will be bottlenecks, but if we keep doing it, productivity, efficiency are the two very important part of any business, individually or as a business, and that's what is happening right now.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
Just to build on that, I think, for all aspects of technology and innovation, I think the pandemic has certainly accelerated adoption curves, right? It has shown people, sometimes you just have to change to do things differently because of external factors, like what we all experienced over the last couple of years. And so I think in a lot of areas that has brought 5 to 10 years worth of innovation adoption in the last 2 years. And that's really, for a technology investor and someone who loves and is passionate about building the Alberta tech ecosystem, that's been really exciting for me to see. But I don't think that is the only factor that is leading to a lot of the innovation that we're seeing. I think part of it is a critical mass that has built in Calgary and in Edmonton in the last number of years. We've seen so many local tech companies starting to graduate to almost unicorn status, right? Ontario had Nortel, and then they had BlackBerry, and then that unleashed a whole bunch of just momentum and tens of thousands of new jobs and spin-off companies, etc. We're starting to get to that same stage in Alberta, where we now have Benevity, Cement, we have Circle Cardiovascular Imaging, we have so many other really exciting, fast-growing, big unicorn-style tech companies. And I think that what that's sending a message to folks is, there is a future for you in Alberta for technology. If you want to work in the space, there is a future. And yeah, there may be some automation, like Neeraj said at Attabotics, they've automated a lot of their manufacturing, but by doing so, they actually kept the jobs in Calgary instead of sending them to Asia. So there's a lot of exciting upside and possibilities that technology and automation is going to unleash in Alberta. And I think the future has never been brighter for technology, for folks who want to work in technology, who are entrepreneurs, innovators, etc. So I hope that you're all encouraged by that. I don't think there's any reason why we need to be scared of this. This is more opportunity for everybody.
Agreed. Serene, yes, or Serene?
just staring at you. I think the pandemic really helped us to focus on what was very important. And we found that remote work actually can work. We figured out which parts of communication were really important, what those core values of our companies were. And if we do go back to the office, what do we want from an office? What does an office mean to us? What does that team communication give us? And it's really allowed me as a business owner to step back and think about what's important to us so that we can spend our time and energy and money on the things that are actually valuable rather than the things that we've just always traditionally done.
Yeah, I'll add just a little bit to that. And I think, again, per COVID, accelerating adoption of these technologies and, again, augmenting employees, thinking about remote work, the return to the office, or even just, I think, for any employer to look inward on themselves and ask themselves, where are they at in their digital transformation journey, especially if they're in a legacy industry or they're a legacy, a legacy corporation that is in the middle of that delightfully messy journey, but also to ask themselves as leaders and as managers and as employers, what have they learned as the adoption of these technologies have allowed for their employees to almost, and the studies have shown, accelerate their efficiency and output mostly. And to ask themselves, where are they at in their level of digital understanding? Where are they at in their culture of innovation? And what are they doing to ensure that that culture of innovation, rapid adoption, and experimentation makes them an applicable place to think about the jobs of tomorrow? Because right now, I think if you sit down with a lot of managers or they're hiring managers or people in culture and ask them, have you done some sensing and some futuring to think about what the jobs in your company need to be in the next 3 to 5 years? It'd be interesting to hear what those answers are. And some have done a really great job and others aren't necessarily equipped. So I think it's a great time of reflection based on these 2 years to ask ourselves, are we creating the environments that actually help foster the digital jobs of tomorrow, adopt the technologies that are in front of us and accelerating that, and then are we actually teaching and training that digital talent to be fluid as these technologies ramp up versus come out with one particular skill set that might be too rigid to adopt as things change?
Yeah, a couple concepts here of really understanding the value that we're delivering and how we bring our people together with culture as well as remote. So an add-on to that is, how should our companies, or how does our Alberta industry should think about global talent as we're growing our companies in this kind of remote environment?
Well, I think we should be thinking about global talent as a resource, as an opportunity to accelerate the innovation that's happening here in Alberta. I think one of the things I hear all the time from the leaders of some of the most exciting, fastest growing tech companies in Alberta is our single biggest bottleneck right now is access to talent. And it's not that we're not training really good people here, it's just there's so much demand because the tech sector in Alberta is on fire right now, and that's great news. That's a good problem to have. So I see that as being an opportunity for Alberta to position itself as a destination of choice for innovators and inventors all around the world to say, hey, there's no better place than Alberta for you to come and apply your skills and expertise and to build something new. Come build it here. Come develop it here. We have a low cost of living. We've got one of the best places in the world to live. We've got a really fast-growing and exciting tech sector. Come be a part of that. And so one of the things I know that our government is really focused on is trying to make it easier to get a faster path for folks to come to Alberta from outside of from across the country, but also around the world, so that they can come and get to work and start contributing to our tech sector right away. I think if we can continue down that path, it's going to unleash the floodgates of productivity for Alberta tech companies, and we're going to see some really exciting stuff come out of Alberta in the next couple of years.
Neeraj, at Attabotics, do you have a strategy, or how do you think about bringing in talent from other jurisdictions?
So last 3 years have helped because we need a lot of role models for the marketing. So Benevity, Neo, Siemens, Attabotics, all these companies, which I term it as unicorns and soonicorns, have come up, and that helped us a lot because all of a sudden this global communication, because the pandemic started happening, and I had to less explain about why Alberta. When I shifted here, people just used to ask why Alberta, and it's oil and gas, and you are not oil and gas guy. But nowadays, people don't ask about it. People ask about Jobber. People ask about Amy, and I think we are doing much better job in marketing. So it has helped Attabotics as well. We have hired a lot of global talent. They have come over here. There is a bit of a issue with the timelines because of pandemic, immigration issues have happened. But like, for example, we hired 3 C-level executives in US, and literally every week they are here and they're working here. They love it, actually. So what has happened is because of that, we are able to hire a lot of global people who are now planning to come to Calgary, and they do understand that Calgary and Alberta is becoming very conducive in terms of the business and opportunities. B, because of a lot of startups coming in, a lot of people who are coming over to Attabotics, we are not scared when somebody says, I want to become an entrepreneur once I get some job experience. We are very happy about it. So they get more opportunities. They know there are a lot of funding, government is supporting, so they start thinking about those aspects. And the third part is Attabotics was very North American company. We had clients in US and Canada. But with this global mindset, we were able to tap a lot of people in Europe and Asia because we want to expand there moving down the line, and we are able to hire them who are coming over here. They'll understand moving down the line, they'll lead that group in those countries.
Thanks. So if I'm in a traditional industry, what roles do you think are most at risk at being eliminated? And if I am one of those people, where do I look? Where is the most exciting places? Where's the most opportunity? We talked about medtech a little bit, but where are places that there's real opportunity in the Alberta tech ecosystem? Go ahead, Serene.
So, what kind of people I really like hiring as programmers is programmers who have done something else previously in their career. The reason is that when we write code, we're not writing it for the computers, we're writing it for people. And so we're hiring geologists turned programmers who are now writing code for geology, for oil and gas, to help remedy climate change, to help fix some of the oil wells. And they're still using their industry experience, but now in just a more digital space. I really enjoy working with those people and hiring them. They bring a wealth of experience. And so I think if you are pivoting into tech, look for a technical job or a digital job that allows you to still use that industry experience, because it's invaluable and it's going to allow you to build better software.
One of my projects right now is I'm working on behalf of SAIT, and we've spun up a group called the Catalyst Group. And we're this small kind of design team, part Stanford D School, part little mini MIT Media Lab, to ask ourselves questions like, what is the future of work? What is the future of learning? And so when we think about what jobs or roles are at risk of being displaced, that's been the case forever. But it's all about mindset, just as it has been before. And so what our job is there in that project is to think about how to apply experiences both in industry and in learning settings that are meant to grow a digital mindset or a level of digital intelligence. And so again, that might be that in order to use a machine learning platform, you don't need to be a data scientist, but you need to have a level of digital intelligence to understand the implications of whatever data set you have access to, or to at least ask questions about the answers that you're getting back in return. And so, it's in my mind's eye, roles and jobs are always shifting, but the mindset and to equip people to thrive in a digital era is another. And that goes from anyone that is entering their career path to those that are nearly, exiting, about what legacy they want to leave. And so I always think about how do we create the environments and kind of culture of experimentation, so we're creating people who know how to thrive in uncertainty and think about the humans around them. That makes way better technology, and I think it also gives a lot of people employment security because they can be more fluid and jump into other roles.
Yeah, I love that. The technology industry is like this fail fast, but experimenting quickly and being okay with experiments and iteration is such an important piece. to the industry and to that mindset, for sure. Go
Can I
ahead,
jump in
Mr.
real quick?
Glubish.
So just to sort of take a different angle to that important conversation too, like you were asking, where can folks look to if they're thinking, I might need to prepare myself for change? I mean, change can be scary, but change can also be exciting. It can be an opportunity to jump into something new and fresh that might have a really great upward trajectory for you. And so I know, like a good example is what the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute is doing with a lot of their training opportunities. They've created a bunch of programs to say like, hey, we know there are a lot of geologists and folks from the energy sector who have engineering skill sets. And you know what? A lot of what they learned in their first degree or in their training is very portable to machine learning analysis. And it's just, in fact, you can do a very small amount of upskilling and all of a sudden now you got a really talented ML data scientist who also has a real world experience in another industry. So maybe now they're going to be really valuable at developing new AI and ML tools for the energy industry. And so that's one place that folks can go, is to go talk to Cam Linke and his team at Amy. And certainly I know one of the things my colleague, the Minister of Advanced Education, is working on is new micro-credentialing programs so that you can, instead of having to go to do a whole new degree, to try and branch into something new. Let's look at finding and saying, what are the core skills that you need to succeed in this new profession? And how can you just pick and choose a la carte and find those things and get that training at a high quality, high performing level so that you can quickly transition if you need to and pivot your career. Because what I'm seeing, certainly with my generation, I mean, I'm 40 years old, lots of folks are pivoting very frequently throughout their careers and they're having to make changes. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually a good thing. And you're going to learn a lot along the way. But how can we as a government try and create the conditions that will come alongside of you and help you reach your fullest potential? And so I think there's a lot of things in the works that are going to help to meet folks where they're at now as more of this technology and innovation is disrupting our market. Disruption's a healthy thing, right? It's going to mean that things that aren't adding value or that are wasteful or that are dangerous, well, maybe we don't need to do that anymore. We find other ways to do it in a safer and more efficient way. But the folks who have experience from that space can still add value in new ways. We just need to help point them in the right direction and support them in getting additional skills. And so I think there's a lot to be excited about in where Alberta's going as a province.
If I can add, there are two specific sectors which also I've started seeing a lot of focus. So we are talking about AI, machine learning, we are talking about robotics. So two sectors where Alberta was traditionally very strong is IoT and manufacturing. And I'm on the board of Alberta IoT, and I'm seeing that in last 3 years, Alberta IoT has become more global voice in IoT sector and manufacturing sector. So I think I'm already seeing that a lot of the focus is coming back to manufacturing and IoT, and that's very, very important for us. I think manufacturing sector and IoT sector, we could become one of the world leaders. We were earlier, and it's coming back.
Yes, totally. And I would also add ag tech to that. And med tech we talked about earlier, and I know we're talking about ag tech tomorrow. I'm going to ask you all to kind of put on your crystal ball a little bit. And over 95 million jobs are going to be created through robotics, AI, blockchain, and our digital jobs of today have been completely transformed by remote, mobile, cloud, social. But what will a digital job look like 5 or 10 years from now? What type of roles do you think would be more prevalent? What type of environments do you think people are going to be working in?
It will be more or less same, but more on the digital platform. We were talking on metaverse, right? And in metaverse also, you probably will be able to interact more. You can have more business ideas validated. You can have better marketing. You can have better events management. So I think a lot of things, whatever we are doing right now, we just will be smarter, I guess, and we will start doing it on a cloud. So there's a kind of synergy that's happening between physical and this virtual world, and we are trying to understand how to interact between the two. It's almost like a Matrix movie. Like we're trying to figure out what has to be done, what's real. But I think a lot of businesses have started realizing the fact that this metaverse and the virtual world exists. There can be interaction, there can be money made, and you can create more jobs. So I guess it's all about reskilling. A lot of finishing school things which you were talking about. I think the new generation and students will not just be saying, I'm a computer science graduate. They'll have a couple of more tags around that, and that's what's going to happen.
So, full disclaimer, my crystal ball is no better than anyone else's, because if my crystal ball was great, I would have got Bitcoin in 2009. But given what I'm seeing as the minister responsible for the technology backbone of the Alberta government, and then my past life as a VC, I think what I'm most excited about in terms of future opportunities, in terms of investments, and in terms of jobs, is data-driven innovation. Because so I often say, technology is not just an industry; it's the future of every industry. But the technologies that I'm most excited about as someone who's been investing in this space for 15 years is data-driven innovation. Because this is now, using AI and machine learning and better data science and analysis principles to build new models and new tools and technologies to solve problems in new ways. That's what's helping us to transform every industry. So whether that's transforming the future of the metaverse, whether that's transforming traditional industries like oil and gas, whether it's transforming the healthcare system or anything in between, the fact is it's all going to come down to, what does the data tell us? What are we measuring? Are we measuring the right things? Are we measuring it in a way that we can actually harness that data and analyze it and draw conclusions from it and build tools based on that? And as long as we can say yes to that and say, yeah, we're measuring the right things, we're measuring them the right way, and we're turning our attention to adding value to that data, then every industry is going to be transformed. And there will be a home for innovators and for technology entrepreneurs in every industry. Not just in the tech industry. The tech industry is the future of every industry, and if you're in tech, then you have the brightest future out of anybody in Canada. I firmly believe that.
Go ahead, Serene.
I can't predict the future, but can I tell you what I want to see?
Sure.
So I'm really hoping that automation allows us to live more intentional, valuable, and meaningful lives. I'm hoping that automation is going to make it so that nobody has to do a boring job, a monotonous job, an unsafe job. Those are the jobs that I'm hoping automation is going to eliminate, so that people can choose jobs and careers and lives and activities that really bring real meaning to their lives. That's what I want to see with rainbows and unicorns and chocolate cookies for everyone.
Well, and those rainbows and unicorns are coming, right? Which is really fantastic, and the cookies too, with lots of sprinkles on top. And we've been talking about the tools. We've been talking about Web3 and how it opens up the possibilities. One for, I think, again, resources and income for oneself versus a concentration and centralization of those resources and data and money to a few. I mean, any of us that were in the first wave of Web 2.0 know what we touted on the world of democratization and community-led conversations and growth, and kind of went, oops, goodness. And a lot of my former colleagues are living out in Joshua Tree offline now, saying, oops, I didn't mean to build that. But if we think about, Web3, we think about decentralization, we think about personal identity and ownership of data and decision-making, how people work and expectations of levels of transparency and accountability to the point of data-driven decision-making and innovation is a really powerful new era, I think, for inclusive co-creation of technology and shared benefits and results. And so I think I share that desire of those rainbows and unicorns. And again, it's about a level of education and invitation to participate in the building of tomorrow, and that's where those technical skills and education, whether it be formal, on a 2-4 year degree or beyond, or those micro-credentials and digital finishing schools, because the more people participate, the better those outcomes are, and the more human I think we get to be by leveraging that automation and those tools.
Yeah, I totally agree. We're going to open it up for questions now, so I'll give it a minute or two. But if you could quickly, in one sentence, say something that you're hopeful about jobs of the future of automation, what would you say in one word or one sentence?
Exciting.
Exciting for Alberta.
Hopeful.
Opportunistic.
Nice. So we're opening up for questions. I think I see one right here. You've got the box.
Yeah. Hi, thanks for the panel discussion. It was amazing. So there's been a lot of discussion surrounding sort of data-driven decision-making from Minister Nate, and I guess, you know, the topic of discussion being digital jobs of tomorrow. There's a lot of evidence that, you know, the algorithms that drive a lot of the data decision-making can sometimes be biased in the way that they make those decisions, including, I'm sure, Serene battles this daily in coding. There's a coded bias sometimes coming just from the coders themselves. So is there anything being done or like thought of that would make the digital jobs of tomorrow more equitable for just, you know, those in the job sector that are, you know, maybe traditionally disenfranchised by, you know, tech?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Thank you for that. And I think, you know, one of the things that I'm really encouraged about is if you look at Alberta's tech sector and all the folks working in that space, it's a very diverse crowd. You know, these are folks who come from all walks of life, from all parts of the world, so many different backgrounds. And that gives me hope that the folks who are working on building data-driven innovations for the future are bringing in that diversity and those diverse backgrounds into what they're building. But I think, you know, to your point, you know, a role of government certainly is to try and be aware of historical biases and to try and create conditions where any innovations that are being developed inside of government, that we're aware of those biases and we're consciously trying to make sure that they don't find their way into future innovation. So I think it's a good warning of let's not lose sight of this. But I would say I am so hopeful, given what I have seen in Alberta's tech sector as it continues to grow and develop. I mean, we've gone from, 1,200 startups to well over 3,000 in the last 2.5 years, and more folks getting into the space, and more people coming to Alberta from all around the world to be in this space. And that's only going to continue, and I think that we are going to benefit from that diversity as more and more of these tools are being developed. So I'm encouraged and hopeful, but, you know, good point, and let's not forget that we need to be mindful of that every single day.
Go ahead, Serene.
So in a previous life, in the before times, I was actually leading a data-driven auto lending machine learning team. I'm sure there was a shorter term. And biases was actually something that we were always consciously keeping an eye on. But the company was actually created with the intent of increasing accessibility to auto loans that were not accessible to traditional lending methods. And so there is a market for data-driven decision-making that overcomes those biases. So I don't think it's actually going to be a problem. We're seeing fintech companies pop up that are specializing in things like credit adjudication that are specifically for women. We see that there is a bias against lending for women because they are traditionally the ones who are staying home more. They have gaps in their resumes, they have gaps in their salaries, and they're being unfairly prejudiced against when applying for loans. And so there are markets that are opening up for these things, and I think that there is definitely a huge appetite for such products. So I don't see it so much as a problem, but actually an opportunity.
If I may add, right now we are at a very early stage of data understanding. Data realization, data democratization, and data sharing. All these things are evolving. People are talking about how to make use of data. The problem in the companies is not that they don't have data. The problem is they have a lot of data. And trying to make sense of that data and then how they can share with each other, what kind of data they can share. I know Service Alberta has started data democratization and commercialization platform where you will have better data. Right now we are not doing AI. We are mostly doing machine learning. AI is the next phase. So I think it will evolve. And over the period of time, we'll look into these things. Canada and France started a group, the government started a group called GPay, Global Partnership on AI. And I'm also part of that. And we are talking about all these things. What will happen with the innovation? Think about patents. If I give you my data, should I be an inventor? Because I gave you the data which built an algorithm for you. and a better algorithm. So all these issues are coming up, and I think over the period of time you'll see some kind of models, and because of it there'll be better jobs and better understanding and better business.
All right, let's take the next question right here.
Hello, panel. It's Dan Olson with Careers. My question is what is the priority of introducing youth to these digital jobs of tomorrow, and how and why is that important?
I was laughing at nicely with a group I was meeting with a handful of months ago who were trying to run a digital transformation program for youth. And I thought, they don't need to be transformed. Like, they're digital natives. They're immersed in this. And we're not transforming, not trying to rewire, because they're growing up in a truly immersed technical environment. Introducing them to the jobs of tomorrow, again, requires that crystal ball of what those jobs will be. So it really is, I think the best programs are the ones that are teaching tech ethics, focusing on mindset, equipping them with, of course, those hard digital skills, but really around what is digital equity and what world they want to create and what problems do they want to solve, and therefore what skills they need that can be applicable in a variety of different ways. And I think we're also seeing a generation coming up, whether they be Gen Z or younger, that are really focused on purpose. They know tech like the back of their hand. They're comfortable in the skin of an avatar, almost somewhat more than they're comfortable in their own physical skin. And I think we can learn a lot from them. But the goal is, like, how do they wield their creative power in a way that actually, again, creates the future that they want and the problems that they want to solve, but making sure that they've got the mindset and the skills to do that. So I think it's less about helping them define the job, but thinking about what they're passionate about, but then actually how they apply those to real world applications. Because we know when we ask people to follow their passion, that like 99% of people don't have a passion, they have hobbies. And they're like, well, I don't know what enough to do with that. But how do we teach them how to go after really big, challenging problems and feel empowered and also digitally able to tackle them?
And just to jump in, like, 100% agree with everything that Jasmine just said. I think she said it better than I ever could. But just to take a different angle to that, is like, okay, so those are all very important sort of principles, like a principles-based approach of how do we prepare our kids for tomorrow. But then there's also the practical, okay, well, what are some of the skills that they're going to need, and how do we make sure that that's actually in our curriculum? And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited that, like, the upcoming changes to Alberta's curriculum is going to include introduction to coding embedded in the K-6 curriculum, so that our young folks are going to actually, like I remember when I was in school, we had one computer in the classroom, and you had to book time to learn how to type, and that was the extent of that training. And now it's like kids are going to learn how to code in K-6 and beyond. So if you take sort of the principles-based stuff that Jasmine highlighted, which are 100% bang on, and add to that making sure that every kid has an opportunity to learn the basics of coding and to get comfortable with that and to feel natural in that. I mean, as Jasmine said, they are digital natives. They understand this stuff. Any of us who have kids, I have a two-year-old, so it's maybe a little early, but he can already move around on the iPad and find his Paw Patrol on Netflix by himself, and he's 2 years old. So I'm sure that, like, when he's 5, 6, 7, if we're giving him the opportunity and access to tools and training, that he's going to embrace this. And I think all kids have the power and the potential to do that. So for me, I think it is so important. We need to make sure our kids know it's important, and we've got to try and help share the excitement with them. And I think it's not going to be very hard. I think that they're going to be naturally drawn to this space.
I really want to echo your comment on access. I think that's incredibly important. Any of us that are in the industry and are driving the tech ecosystem should be thinking about the role we play in providing access to youth, especially disenfranchised youth, to the tools that they need so they can participate.
Yeah, and just on the access, I mean, so technology, coding, all of this stuff, it's all well and good, but if you don't have connectivity, you can't use it. And that's why it's been such a big passion of mine to lead Alberta's initiative to eliminate the digital divide for rural, remote, and Indigenous communities across this province. This is roughly $1 billion problem, and for the last 2 years I've been working on trying to solve that. And I was so excited as a part of Budget 2022 to be able to announce that the Alberta government is committing $390 million over the next 4 years. And then I was able to secure a dollar-for-dollar matching deal with the federal government. So that's $780 million going to build digital connectivity infrastructure in rural, remote, and Indigenous communities across this province. And when we finalize our agreements with the private sector partners who will actually build this and put the fiber in the ground and build the towers, we're going to be north of $1 billion. So we have actually solved the problem in principle. It's a funded plan, it's a real plan, and in the next 5 to 6 years, every Albertan will have access to reliable high-speed internet. You want to talk about access and the ability for the youth of and the leaders of the future to be equipped with the skills they need, it starts with connectivity. So there's a lot of stuff we're working on in the government to try and help set up our kids for success, and that's a big part of it.
I think we have time for one more, maybe two, but yes, way in the back.
Yeah, hi there. Patrick Lamoureux, Lambs and Associates. I'd like to direct my comment or question to Nate because you're my MLA, and I love your background. So question, we've recently expanded our practice of merger acquisition work in the UK, in Europe, specifically around data and data management and working with startups to very established companies. I wouldn't mind, Nate, if you could elaborate a little further on your commentaries in regards to what the future could look like in having folks who are starting up mid-size or large in terms of understanding the data and the importance of that and how we should be mindful of mining it, monitorizing it, and be able to educate people or hire third parties to come in to be able to turn that into new opportunities, which will of course lead into future employment opportunities.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to unpack there. I don't know if we have enough time to do it justice, but I'll make an effort to try and keep things short. Again, like just to reiterate, I'm a big believer that data-driven innovation is going to be a big part of Alberta's future for our economy in terms of growth and diversification and new jobs. I think, what could the Alberta government's role be in that? I think part of that is to say, well, government has a lot of data. We spend a lot of time, energy, and money to gather, store, and secure that data, and we're really good at that. But what we haven't historically done is to then say, how do we invest some time and energy to add value to that data, to analyze that data, and to create new tools and technologies based on that data so that we can better meet the needs of Albertans. And I'm not convinced that the government's necessarily the best equipped to do that on our own. I think that it's going to be better for us to create the conditions to, in a safe and secure environment, collaborate with innovators across Alberta who have different skill sets, different expertise, whether it be in medicine, whether it be in geology, whatever it may be, to say, how do we create a sandbox where you can come in and work with the government to say, this is the data set that's of interest. How do we create the guardrails, the privacy by design principles, the ethics principles on how you can work with this? And then that, I believe, would unleash the creative capacity and the innovation capacity of Albertans to create all kinds of startups and new technologies and new tools that is going to just make the lives of Albertans better by transforming traditional industries, that's going to create the jobs of tomorrow and is going to attract a ton of investment to our province. So that's a big part of what I'm working on as a part of Alberta's data strategy.
Are we out of time? Yeah, so is there any other final comments that you want to share with the group here?
Well, I'll just say what my T-shirt says, because I know Nate and I are T-shirt twins. And it's just to be a good digital citizen. The future is unwritten, and it needs to be written by the many versus the few. And it's a really exciting time in our province. I think we're having we're seeing the acceleration in the tech sector and in the energy sector at the same time, which is really beautiful. And I think we have to harness that potential and build something really great.
Great. Go ahead, Serene.
I think we have a lot of potential in our city and our province. We're uniquely positioned to succeed in technology, and I think we have all the people and the talent and support that we need in order to get us to somewhere we want. It's really important for us to remember that all of this that we're doing, these conferences, tech, crypto, all these things, we're doing it to improve our lives. We're trying to build happier, more meaningful, more valuable lives for ourselves and the future generations. We may disagree on how we want to get there, but that's what everybody wants. what does that look like for us and how we're going to get there? I think we are going to be able to do that as a community. I mean, even just today, I was chatting with Jasmine about how we are now going to work together to build that better community for our city and for our children. So I mean, automation sounds like a lot of doom and gloom, but I think it's actually a really great opportunity for us to rethink what it means for us to lead those valuable lives, and we have that opportunity to make that happen.
Neeraj?
Yeah, while we are building our internal capacity in Alberta, let's start becoming relevant internationally. So speak about Alberta and the amazing things we are doing. Communicate, collaborate with the global ecosystem.
Final thoughts, I guess, just is I have never been more excited than I am today about the future of Alberta and of Alberta's technology sector. Again, technology is the future of every industry. So if you are working in tech, or if you are thinking about working in tech, if you are studying tech right now, be encouraged. Alberta is the place to be. Alberta has so much opportunity for you, and Alberta's government is interested in seeing you succeed, and we're working hard to create the conditions to ensure that you can reach your fullest potential. And just know that I want to be a champion for local tech, so let's connect on LinkedIn. I want to hear all about what you're working on, and hashtag #IHeartAlbertaTech.
I'm sure that's that invitation for all the panelists that are out there to connecting with them. So thank you so much, Minister Glubish, Neeraj, Serene, and Jasmine for the conversation today, and a round of applause for the panel.